What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Friday, the 25th of October. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. Tomorrow, of course, is trick-or-treat night. And I don't know when this happened. When I was a kid, Halloween was always on the 31st, and we go out trick-or-treating. But some Halloween costume association got the bright idea of actually splitting trick-or-treat night away from Halloween itself. And so at least around here, it's going to be tomorrow night. We have the candy already sitting on the shelves and, ready to go. So you might want to check when the official trick-or-treating is for your areas. They just mucked it up. Halloween was working just fine, and somebody just said, we're going to change things just because we can. All right, let's get into some serious news here. First of all, the phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Mike is in our control room, ready to answer the phone, put you on the air with your comments, questions, and observations. Now, Pepe Escobar has written an article that basically lays out what Putin has been doing in Syria, calls him the pacifier in chief, and that's certainly true because not even looking at the current negotiations and ceasefire, Putin was the one who came on in and arranged for Assad to surrender all of his chemical weapons, which Assad wasn't going to use them anyway. So it was an easy thing for Assad to do. But basically, just talking about the meeting in Sochi was 6 hours long. But the bottom line is Russian President Putin and his Turkish counterpart Erdogan managed the near impossible and got this deal put together, which includes preservation of Syrian territorial integrity. Now, that's kind of a diss at the United States, which has developed this bad habit in recent decades of going into other countries and moving borders and cities and stuff around at that. Now, there are, unfortunately, still reports of clashes in northeast Syria that are straining and stressing the Turkish-Russian memorandum. Part of the problem, of course, is the Kurds were not included in the negotiations. They were simply told, get out. And the United States certainly has a strong motive to try and keep the conflict going. So does Israel. But it does appear that somebody somewhere is urging the Kurds to keep the fighting going. Even though this situation is putting a great deal of stress on NATO. Because, at this point, it looks like Turkey is swinging into the Russian sphere of influence. And there are people saying that it may be time for Ankara to basically lose their membership in the NATO alliance. Now, they first became members of NATO back in 1952, and that was because Turkey was seen as a vital bulwark against the evil Soviet Union. The U.S. placed nuclear missiles in Turkey, which is what prompted the Russians to do the same in Cuba, leading to the Cuban Missile Crisis. And when they teach about the Cuban Missile Crisis, they don't mention that little fact that the United States started playing with the nukes first here. So Russia has now deployed additional troops and equipment in northern Syria, 276 more Russian military police officers, and 33 additional equipment pieces. So they're very serious about their patrols. And right now, a lot of attention is shifting to Turkish relations with the United States. And there's still a lot of concern over at Incirlik Air Base about nuclear weapons that are stored there. B-61 gravity bombs. And there's roughly 50 of them. And the New York Times basically reporting on an unidentified senior U.S. official said the bombs are being held hostage by Turkish President Erdogan. Now, last week we heard some of the bombs were already being flown out and returned to wherever the United States likes to keep these things here. But right now, a big point of contention is the sending of tanks by the United States into Syria to basically guard and protect oil fields. And this is very concerning to the people of Syria, because the big question is the oil going to be sold for a currency of Syria's choosing, or are they going to be forced to trade in the dollar? And my wooden nickel is on that latter one here. But apparently, there's been a lot of meetings at the White House focusing on where the oil is. Where are the Syrian oil fields? So Trump is basically committing a crime here. You know, Assad does not want the United States inside his country. He certainly doesn't want them surrounding the oil. And most Syrians are saying the U.S. is simply attempting to seize the oil fields, and that's theft and piracy and plunder. Speaking of plunder, apparently the plundering of Ukraine scandal is starting to blow up there, and partly it's because of an interview given to the UNZA Review by a prominent Ukrainian politician, ex-member of parliament, 4 terms, and a candidate for Ukraine's presidency, Oleg Tsarev, who was out there saying that there was more than just Biden involved, that there are a lot of American Democrats who were sort of dipping into this cash flow. That one is spreading here. Now, a little bit of good news, or at least I hope it is. Certainly it's going to be keeping a lot of our deep state people up awake at night, because the Department of Justice's Russiagate probe has just turned into a criminal investigation. And that will allow prosecutor John Durham the power to subpoena documents and witnesses, to impanel a grand jury, and to file criminal charges. Heard last week, they found something. They found something really major connected to the Russiagate scandal. Now, Durham's progress is being closely monitored by Attorney General William Barr, and basically, they're looking into how this all got started. Set up the Steele document, the dossier, the PIS dossier, so forth and so forth. Adam Schiff's impeachment investigation has hit a brick wall, because it's now come on out that Ukraine did not know that the United States had frozen aid at the time of Trump's July 25th phone call. So you can't have a quid pro quo with no quo. And this has been apparently unwittingly confirmed by the New York Times itself. Ukraine didn't know the aid was frozen. Getting back to the Biden family, Hunter Biden, that scandal has now expanded into Romania, involving a corrupt land deal, shady real estate dealings, and just corrupt from top to bottom here. Okay, Larry Johnson's released a report a few days ago in which he lists the 8 cases in the Mueller report where the deep state tried to tie President Trump and his campaign and administration to the Russians. Of these 8 events, 6 are now known to have been setups by the deep state itself. They were trying to frame him. They were absolutely trying to frame him. So, now do you remember this Maria Butina? She's a Russian gun rights activist, and she was accused of being a secret agent for the Kremlin and trying to infiltrate U.S. political groups. And and she's finally been released from federal prison. Now, she pled guilty to get an 18-month sentence. And apparently she was told, if you fight this, if you plead not guilty and we have to take this to court, we will put you away forever. So she's been let go from the low security facility in Florida and already handed over to federal immigration authorities to be immediately deported to Russia, so nobody can get at her and interview her and say what the heck was really going on. They'd get some of the illegal immigrants deported immediately. All right. Trump pollster John McLaughlin has released a new poll. 52% of respondents say the impeachment is just a political stunt by Democrats. 59% say it's a total waste of time. Schiff is not getting any traction with the American people over this. I'm sure his pollsters, who are out there polling mostly Democrats, are going to get a slightly better set of numbers. But it was a hatchet job against the duly elected president of the United States of America. And it's time for some of these people really to go to jail. Of course, I'm sure, they're circling the wagons. They're looking out for each other because they know the first one who goes down is going to spill all the beans to get the lightest sentence. I'm worried there will be an attempted assassination against the president. And if I were Trump's security team, I'd be seriously thinking about getting rid of the last of the Obama holdovers. Over in the Senate, they've introduced a resolution to condemn the House impeachment effort. Less than 24 hours, it already has 46 signatures. So, Tulsi Gabbard was on Hannity criticizing this impeachment inquiry process, which deserves criticism. It's a kangaroo court. It's a 1950s Soviet show trial here. Apparently, Joe Biden forgot there are Latino voters out there, and he forgot to buy a campaign website aimed at the Latino vote, so Trump bought it. This makes Biden look very, very stupid here. All right, let's get back to Michael Flynn. There are new developments here. And Flynn lawyers have gone back into court asking for a dismissal of all charges. And they've documented the fact that Lisa Page edited Flynn FD 302. Those who don't remember, a 302 summary report consists of contemporaneous notes taken by an FBI agent when interviewing a subject. These days of digital recorders, you have to wonder why they would bother. And the problem with the FD 302s is they can be altered and edited. The 302 is not what the witness is actually saying. It's what the FBI agent thinks or wants the witness to be saying. And way back in 1994, when I inadvertently stumbled across the Vince Foster case, I found a perfect example of how the FBI was changing the FD 302s to support the official narrative. So Lisa Page edited the Flynn FBI 302 report, then lied to the Department of Justice about the edits. She's now in a little bit of trouble. James Clapper is now connected to the felony leaks of General Flynn's discussions with Russia in early 2017. And the GOP has revealed new Strzok texts concerning the crescendo of leaks, and they're demanding an investigation. Want Intelligence Community Inspector General Michael Atkinson to explain why the watchdog hasn't said if it's investigating a number of leaks of highly sensitive information in recent years. They're concerned here. All righty. So Flynn's attorney, Sidney Powell, has gone back into court. He's asking the judge to simply dismiss all the charges. All right, we have a caller on the line here, John in Tennessee. Aloha, John. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. You hear me okay?
I hear you just fine.
Okay. All right. No, I think it was advanced on your show maybe within the last week or something. You know, if you just flip through the channels and you watch all the coverage of everything's going on, all these, you know, news topics or whatever they choose, I really have to believe that the blackmail book of the Clintons is wide open, and they are actually orchestrating all of this. They're telling Joe Biden to get out there and stay, and despite all the gaffes, I mean, the guy's horrible.
Yes.
He's not electable at all. And I really just think it's a blackmail book going, no, Joe, you're going to stay out there, and you're going to stay out there as long as I tell you to, or I'm going to do this to you. Mm-hmm. And I think Hillary's going to jump in the race, and you would have to do all this impeachment crap, whatever comes up. What would she have for him in a second round of debates between those two? She would have nothing as far as what he's, you know, because, you know, Fox News, they're always touting the economy and the bogus 3.5% unemployment. She couldn't hit him with anything policy-wise. All she would have to do is just go, you're a dirtbag, you're illegal, you quid pro quo. She would have nothing. You know, Russian agent, that's all she would have. And people want to hear that garbage. But I don't think Elizabeth Warren is electable.
Not really. If you remember a story we did yesterday where they went onto the campus of George Washington University and they just talked to the students about Hillary running again, and the reaction was just overwhelmingly negative, saying that she's not politically relevant any longer, that they're sick and tired of hearing about her or from her. You know, so far, according to the FEC, you know, her fundraising is not going well at all.
No, but I would say among the common folks, that you get your man on the street to go and stick a microphone in everybody's face anywhere in mainstream USA, and they're all just they're just recoil in horror. And nobody wants to see this lady. Everybody hates her guts. But when it comes to the political elite and big money and things like that, she jumps in the race. I'm told millions of dollars will just fly at her because it's a money-making racket, and then they would obviously go, well, we got to go with a winner, and she's got the name recognition and blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, Trump would probably win again, obviously, because people hate her guts. But I think the whole thing's a money-making racket, and I don't think, I mean, they can't impeach Trump. They got nothing on the guy. I don't think
he has not committed an impeachable offense. I mean, that's the bottom line. And, you know, Schiff was trying.
Black ink on white paper.
Yeah, they were. Schiff was trying to turn this thing in Ukraine, the quid pro quo, saying that he was interfering in Ukrainian politics, and that you know, he was trying to get them to investigate Hunter Biden. And the truth is that the issue was corruption in general, because much of the money the United States does send to Ukraine just sort of kind of vanishes into thin air, and obviously that's an area of concern. So Schiff has nothing. He's got, you know, fourth-hand hearsay rumors, and that's it.
And I would say that the Hillary or the Clinton blackmail book would go against Schiff too. You know, they got dirt on this guy, and they're telling him, you're going to do this stuff, whether you like it or not, you're going to do it. And the whole country's going to hate you, and Tucker Carlson's going to mock you every single night, and Hannity are just going to rip on you, and they're going to be accurate, and I don't really care. I want you to do this. I mean, some of this stuff is, like you said, it's a waste of time. It's absolutely insane. It's fruitless. It's a colossal waste of money. I mean, what would make these people just be so stupid and ram their head against a brick wall like this? And neither one of us are defending Trump or saying he's great. We're just going, this whole thing is an episode of the Kardashians. Our presidency is an episode of the Kardashians with all these players. And John, are eating this crap up every day.
John, I got to put you on hold. We got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back. Hello, America. Welcome back to our show, and we're talking with John in Tennessee about a potential Hillary run, and at this point, I'm convinced that she is seriously considering stepping in. Her attacks on Tulsi Gabbard are one clue, because Tulsi is definitely a major threat if Claire tries to play the feminist card, and certainly Tulsi's anti-war comments work very much in her favor. So I think it was just a few weeks ago, and I said, is all of this nonsense about Trump, is this all being driven by this one bitter woman who still cannot get over the fact that she's lost 2 presidential races? And now her latest excuse for her defeat in 2016 is that there were flashing videos on the dark web. I don't even know what she's trying to say with that, but that's what she came out with.
Yeah, well, I mean, I tried to advance this theory about the blackmail book to somebody in my family, and he came back at me and he said, well, then why did AOC and the squad endorse Bernie? And I said, that's very simple to me, because the question of, will you support Hillary Clinton if she's the nominee? That question is 6-8 months down the road. So certainly they're going to endorse somebody now and tell all the millennials, go to Bernie. He's the guy with the free stuff. We all know you don't want to work and you want free stuff. And then when Hillary gets the nomination with her she'll play the super delegate game again. I mean, we know what's coming. And then the squad will just tell all their people, go to Hillary. Just like Bernie said, Bernie, is there a blackmail book on Bernie? Because he did turn on her. He did get mad about the superdelegate thing. And then he spoke about it publicly. And then she went, you shouldn't have done that, Bernie. You shouldn't have done that, Bernie. So, I mean, I do. I think she's going to run again. And then, like I said, if we're going to get a whole nother round of presidential debates between those two, I mean, what is she going to hit him with? She's going to have to hit him with, like he was going with your 30,000 emails and real substance crimes, things like that. She's going to have to, all she could have is to hit him with so-called crimes, such as Russia or Ukraine. And he would just sit there and roll his eyes, and there'll be all kinds of GIFs made on the internet. But I really do. I'm sorry. I think it's a clown show. I think you and I agree, the people that are put in political office now is a clown show. This is not the republic of our founders. None of these people are statesmen. None of them are statesmen at all. And I think, and I watch Lindsey Graham every night. On Martha McCallum and things like that, and he talks really tough like he's defending the president, but I'm sorry, he was friends with McCain for so long, he'll turn around and put a knife right in Trump's back if the opportunity is there. Like you're saying, this Syria thing, the Republicans would throw his butt out of office over the Syria thing. You want to pull out of Syria? Oh, I mean, everybody wants this guy out of office because he speaks freely and he speaks off the cuff. And he speaks his mind, and it aggravates all of them. He makes them look like fools. But then again, we can't trust him because, I told you, I called him before, and I told you my biggest pet peeve was that budget. He would say, we're not dealing with any debt ceiling crisis until after the election, so I'm going to blow up the deficit. I'm going to blow up the national debt, just like the previous presidents, and nobody said boo about it. Yep. It's like, you're no businessman, you're no fiscal conservative, you're full of crap. And so I'm angry at the whole system, but I just want to advance that on your show. I really think there's a Clinton blackmail book out there on all the players. And they were good friends with Jeff Epstein. And remember, somebody went down to that island and, cleaned out all the computers and computer files. And nobody seems to want to ask, where did all that blackmail information go? And it may, in fact, be and bring in the NBC thing to this, Mike. Bring in the NBC thing to this. Tucker Carlson and these guys. This NBC Weinstein cover-up, all this stuff blown up at NBC. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. And was it NBC that fed Hillary the questions in the debate? Wasn't it them?
Well, they participated, but mostly it was. Yeah, they went along with it. I'm trying to remember the name of the lady who worked for Hillary who got the questions from NBC. But and she had a teleprompter on her podium during the debates, which Trump did not. And when the debates were finally over, one of Hillary's people came on in and very, very quickly unplugged everything. And got it out of there, because everybody could tell she had a teleprompter because the illumination from the screen was lighting up her face.
I still remember the videos of her, stumbling, getting in the SUV and almost falling down. I mean, I remember all that stuff.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, she's a person. I mean, I think the Clintons know what their age is, and they're just hell-bent on getting a lot of money for their family, their legacy, Chelsea, whatever it is. And I think at this point,
they
it's a
got
money-making
lots of
operation.
They've got lots of money. Hillary wants that White House. She thinks it's owed to her. She thinks she deserves it.
Well,
And she's angry
right.
with the American people that we didn't go along with it. Anyway, John, I got to let you go. We got to take another break here for some commercials. We got another caller waiting on the line, and we will be right back. Aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones here to Mark in North Carolina. Mark, thank you for being so patient and waiting so long. What's on your mind?
Sure. Mike, a couple of things. One, we're talking about Clinton. I'll tell you why I don't think she's going to run. And it's just the other woman just mentioned is Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi tore her a new you-know-what hole the other day. Okay? She tore her a new... I did not think that Mrs. Slick Willie expected that. She does not want to face this woman. She's seen what she did to Kamala Harris. She don't want to not only be in a debate stage with her, she doesn't want to engage in any kind of a Twitter war or any kind of other wars, because Tulsi will go after her the way no other Democrat, even Trump didn't go after her the way she went after her. I mean, she is the queen of corruption. There's no question about it. She is a neocon. She's a warmonger. She's everything that Tulsi should. And there's no way she can counterattack other with this Russian Nazi that nobody believes. Only a fool believes. There's only a committed, Democratic hack is going to buy the Russian bit about Tulsi, okay?
I think Hillary's plan, because except for Tulsi, that's a very weak Democratic lineup. There is no clear front runner. I mean, supposedly Biden and Warren are tied in the polls here. But yeah, Tulsi is formidable, and Hillary wants her gone because if they go into a brokered convention next year, which I think is going to happen because there is no clear front runner, Hillary's not going to want Tulsi even under consideration.
But doesn't have a choice. Tulsi is determined to stay. Why do you think she says she's not even going to run for the Congress anymore? She's going to give up her congressional seat because she is determined. She is like a female pit bull. I mean, she is just determined to hang in there, and she is going to hang in there. She is hanging in there. She's getting more and more popular. I don't believe the polls. I believe she's way up there in the polls already.
Yes.
She's very popular among independents, okay, like myself. And most of the states are open states, so people will be able to vote in those primaries, independents. I voted the last time as an independent. I voted for Trump then. This time, I'm already made up my mind. I'm going to vote for Tulsi. There's no credit, she is, I'm telling you, Mike, she is more popular than people even realize. I see you driving through South Carolina, the posters of her all over the freeway, all over the interstates. And one other thing, though, like, I got to have to pick a bone with you. The other day, you mentioned Bloom. I call him Bloom Turd. That's what his name is to me.
Okay.
Michael Bloom Turd. Okay. This guy is bad news, Mike. Okay. He is not only, he's a very autocratic, Ziocon of the worst type.
Yes.
He ran a police state in New York City with the stop and frisk. He actually drove. One of the reasons crime dropped, he drove poor and working class people out of New York. He made it so expensive, with his fellow billionaires and millionaires. He made the place so expensive, nobody could live there anymore. Nobody with families or anything. So mostly single people and stuff moved in. Either they were wealthy or they were sharing apartments with other people. And he made that place into a nightmare. This man is no good. He is the worst of the worst. And he's also been gun confiscation. I personally believe he funded Sandy Hook. I don't have proof on that, but I believe he funded Sandy Hook. He's more than a guy like George Soros, because he is a fanatic anti-gun. The man is no good, Mike. Believe me. If it came to him and Hillary, I don't know who I'd write. That's like really Satan or Lucifer, you know?
That,
I mean,
that's a nightmare scenario right there. That's going to keep me up at tonight.
I also don't think he is going to run either. By the way, I don't think he's ready to take the kind of garbage, the type of stuff that is like the garbage. They will attack him, especially somebody like Elizabeth Warren, whatever else her faults are. He doesn't care for people like that. And of course, Tulsi will go again, carry him a new you know what hole. And there's others on that, and Bernie will take care of him too. So he's not going to. I really doubt it. Even a clown like what's that guy's name? O'Rourke. Even O'Rourke would probably go after him. This guy is he will not. I really doubt he's even going to throw his hat in the ring. But as far as Hillary goes, she might think about it, but I don't think she will, because I think she's afraid of one person. That's Tulsi Gabbard, especially what Tulsi did to her the last time. She did not expect that. She did not expect. She actually probably. It's like, I don't know if you know who this guy Tim Black is. He's like a comedian, but he also has a YouTube channel now. And actually said she just gave Tulsi a Christmas present without knowing it. I mean,
yes,
he's made her that much more popular now. Nobody likes this woman. She's like Dracula, though. You can't keep her down. She keeps coming back until you find, even when you drive that stake into her. And by the way, that reminds me of, Biden's son there in Romania.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, what was he doing in Romania? Maybe he was running blood for Count Dracula. You ever think of that?
It's possible. Hunter Biden seems willing to traffic in anything that's going to turn a profit for him. For all we know, he's a closet Ferengi. So as far as Hillary's concerned, the indications are she's seriously thinking about a run for the White House next year. Of course, she'd have to announce before the end of this year. She's got a campaign. She's soliciting donations. The money is not pouring in the way it did for her previous two failed presidential campaigns. And again, as that article about the interview of the students at George Washington University, people are just tired of her.
Yeah, of course. Nobody wants.
So I don't think she's made a final decision. I know she wants to run, okay, but the last thing she wants is to run and lose for a third time in a row.
You don't want her, Mike? Some old boomer feminists, okay, from the from the old when it first started, when the feminist movement started. Those are the ones who want it. Old lesbians, old just no good, just bad, man-hating feminists. Yeah, that's who want her. Nobody else wants her, Mike.
Yep.
Everybody knows what this woman is about. Okay. She is not going to get, I'm telling you, she's not, I doubt she'll run. If she does, she's going to get her head stomped in, because nobody wants her, and Tulsi will do the job of her if nobody else does. Because you see, she has no fear of her, and she went right after her, and if you notice, she pretty much shut up after that about Tulsi. She didn't have much to say. A few of her speeches.
Well, they're now trying to pull that story back, that Hillary accused Tulsi of being a Russian asset, and saying, no, what Hillary actually said was Republican asset. She's being groomed by the Republicans, and Tulsi changed it to Russia to make Hillary look bad. That's the new story.
I saw the interview, okay? I saw the interview.
Yeah.
Just like with Biden, these people cannot fool. The American people aren't that stupid. I saw what Biden said to the Ukrainian, to the Council on Foreign Relations about what his threats to Ukraine, okay, in his own words.
Yes.
And I've seen what Hillary said about Tulsi in her own words. She can't do that. She may try, but she can't do that. This stuff is online. Forget about the mainstream media. It's on the corporate media. It's online all over the place.
Yes.
It'll be pulled up. Just like they try to suppress the fact that, when we talk about the dancing Israelis and Israel spying on us, and that special that Fox did right after 9/11, they pulled it and tried to squash it, but it keeps coming up. Even in YouTube, as much as they try to suppress it, people keep bringing that stuff up. It keeps winding inside with Carl Cameron, Hume, the whole bunch. They actually were saying it was a serious investigation by Fox News, and it was squashed just like that.
Yes.
And they can't get away with it because there's too much available to people today, Mike. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Tulsi I mean,
the ratings for corporate media are way, way down. There's incredible distrust of the government by the American people. And, I don't want to see civil unrest come to this country. But when you look at how many other places right now are literally on fire, it's entirely possible. And I think they were running a real risk trying to get Trump out of the White House. And, had they succeeded, that could start it. You'd have conservatives and the liberals literally at war with each other, and the conservatives have all the guns, and the liberals are still trying to figure out which bathroom to use.
This is backfiring on them badly, too. Now, I don't trust Barr, but I think Barr really this time he's serious about it in conducting this investigation because he's being leaned on. And the other prosecutor, I believe, he seems to be a pretty squared-up guy. I think what happened with Epstein is this. I think the New York, what do you call it? The New York Southern District of New York.
Yes.
They hate Trump. They wanted anything they could to get dirt on Trump, so they tried an indictment of Epstein without knowing the whole story about Epstein, who he was tied into and everything else. Once that started coming out, and they had this guy in custody, and they had him under indictment, now the entire Justice Department started speaking out, including probably Trump himself, because Trump is tied into Epstein just like the others are. So many of our elite politicians and corporate types are tied into this guy. They're all blackmailed. They're blackmailed by the Mossad. So they probably agreed just to take the guy, to let him be taken out. That's what I think. But in the case...
Personally, I think Epstein is still alive. I think they simply faked his death, to avoid a public trial and avoid any more public exposure of what he's been doing, although stuff keeps surfacing, and there's another story further down that we're going to illustrate that with. Anyway, Mark, thank you very much for the phone call.
Right,
we're going to let you go. We're going to switch over to Dustin in New Jersey. Aloha, Dustin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
All right, Mike. First of all, Mark, if you're going to vote for Tulsi Gabbard, you better keep 1 foot in the door and 1 foot out, because we've seen this movie before. She is a military person, but there's a lot of military persons that are not liking Trump that are part of the other side. So I don't trust anybody anymore. You know what I mean, Mike? I don't, because we're easily duped. Tulsi's against Hillary, but once she gets in...
Not anymore. Not anymore. Okay? It's become very hard to dupe the American people, and that's why the deep state is in such a panic and trying to take control of the internet and social media, because if there's one impact we've had here in the independent media, it's that we have removed the government's ability to lie to us with impunity. And they've run the country so long with lies, fraud, and deception against the American people, they don't know any other way to govern. And that's one of the reasons they're in such a panic here right now. As far as Tulsi Gabbard is concerned, I have no strong objection to her being in the White House. I'm concerned about her views on the Second Amendment, obviously. But yeah, the way she stood up to Hillary, I'm sure Hillary right now is saying, no way do I want to go up against this lady again.
But also BDS, Mike. The BDS movement, she was I just don't know. Because like I said, we've seen this playbook before, and we'll get somebody in.
Justin? Okay, let's say Hillary wins the White House next year. What do you think she's going to do with BDS?
The same.
Okay.
She'll be like for Israel, and just like Trump's for Israel. It's just, I don't know. I know Hillary's not but it's like, see, that's the thing with Trump, the same, the lesser of two evils, but it's still evil, but we just don't know who Tulsi actually is and who her backers are, So once she gets in, we'll all be disappointed again, and we'll say next time. I wish Ron Paul was running again. I just miss Ron Paul.
Yeah.
Because he was the only one I trusted.
Well, he's got his own website now and his own YouTube channel here. And I know that Tulsi is very popular in Hawaii, and that all of her campaign activity for Congress drew these huge crowds. And she is very popular with the military because of her service in Iraq. So the issue here is, we're looking at who is going to be worse. The thing that most concerns me about a Hillary Clinton presidency is that she is angry with the American people as a whole because we didn't vote her into the White House the last 2 times she ran. And if she becomes president, she'll find some way to get even because getting back, paying back, revenge is definitely part of the Clinton playbook.
And her followers are also angry. Remember, this is bigger than just Hillary. There's a system behind her. There's that oligarchy group. And Mike, I got to respond. You had another caller after I called about the tariffs. Do some of your listeners realize that tariffs are a tax?
Yes.
On you, like on the American. It's basically, if you're okay with tariffs, that's like you're okay with raising taxes on yourself. And one of the callers says, well, the government will get the money. Well, the government bailed out Wall Street and the bankers and sent the little people the bill. So that doesn't mean anything. If the government gets the money from the tariffs, how does that affect you as the regular Joe Sixpack? It don't.
Well, yes, it does. Yes, it does, because the cost of the tariff is added to the cost of the product being brought into the country, which means you actually pay that tariff at the checkout line. And
I know that, but I'm saying it doesn't positively affect us. Negatively affect us.
Well, this caller who called on in is out there trying to say that the only reason that manufacturing has died in this country is the tariffs. And tariffs may have contributed to the problem, but they're not the sole reason we lost our manufacturing. We just gave it away. It's basically what happened. And I think yesterday I covered the story about an entire generation of top corporate executives who basically came out of MBAs with no respect for the products they're making, which we're now seeing is impacting Boeing. And they just had this attitude of, we don't need to get our hands dirty. We'll just license the technology to all these other countries. And there went the jobs. And our factories fell into disrepair and ruin.
And Mike, I wanted to also mention, Bolsonaro, the president of Brazil, he railed on China about them trying to steal everything in Brazil. You know where he went to make deals? Guess what country he went to make deals with them?
China.
He went to China. Yeah, exactly. Can you hold me over for another?
Yeah, I'm going to hold you over. Stay on hold. All right. And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're still talking with Dustin in New Jersey, and we're talking politics and the great awakening of the American people, which is one of the things that has our deep state in a total panic. So, Dustin, just sort of pick up where you left off.
And not only that, because it's going on all around the world, in Chile and Ecuador, and obviously France for the 49th week or the 53rd week.
They're coming up on their 1 year anniversary.
But like with Brazil, Mike, he has went to China, he's making deals, and this goes back to the tariffs. All China's lost is a customer. We lost a manufacturer and a banker, and Mike, our farmers, which we're now subsidizing, right? Because they're basically on welfare. Our government controls that. And there's no way, Mike, that those farmers can sell those amount of soybeans to other countries to equal what China bought. I think it was 60% of the soybeans they bought. So soybeans is, I think, Brazil produces, and also like they got the largest chicken factory in the world, right? I believe so. I mean, you got to think about these things before you do them, because actions have consequences.
Yes.
And I just think it was a bad move, because tariffs, some economic people say tariffs work, but most say it don't. It hurts both. But China's in the driver's seat because they have 85% of the manufacturing in the world. We don't. We don't have no room to maneuver. And Mike, before I get off the phone, I don't know if you heard of I don't know if it's Rosneft in Russia. It was breaking news that they're dumping the dollar and they're going to use the euro for exchange with the ruble. So that's a big story, and it's probably not going to report it on the regular news. All right, Mike, have a good night.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. The phone lines are now open, 800-313-9443. Okay, so getting on back to the domestic news here, James Clapper is looking and sounding very nervous now that the Department of Justice's Russiagate probe has shifted into a criminal investigation. Powers of subpoena, power to impanel grand jury, the power to file charges. And, of course, as we mentioned before, documents reveal Clapper was part of this attempted coup d'etat. So my advice to Trump would be, as much as possible, play by the rules. So you don't give the plotters or the Democrats a handle to grab onto you with. But at some point, I think somebody has to start talking seriously about the Insurrection Act. Now, in a new book, President Trump has ratcheted up his claim that the Obama White House spied on his 2016 campaign, claiming it was an act of treason. We got to take a break for station identification. We got a caller waiting on the line, and we'll be right back. Aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Hour number 2. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And we have a caller on the line, Jim in New York. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, hi, Mike. I think Dustin's spot on about Tulsi. Didn't we learn anything from the Trump election? Do people really think a presidential election is going to really make a difference in our system?
No, the problem is systemic. The problem is we have a government that's running as an organized crime gang. But when it comes down to Tulsi Gabbard and everything, I mean, to me, it's a simple choice. Who would you rather have in the White House, Tulsi Gabbard or Hillary Clinton? And obviously, if it comes down to that kind of a choice, I'm going to go with Tulsi. Because the last thing this country needs is Hillary Clinton, in the Oval Office.
Yes, of course, Tulsi is the better choice. But let's, as with Trump, let's not, hope for too much. If you dig deeper on Tulsi, she goes along with the 9/11 fairy tale. She's friends with Sheldon Adelson's wife. She called Trump's Saudi Arabia's BITCH, but she would never dare say Trump is Israel's BITCH. So she's like a Trump on the left.
Well, she's a politician. Let's just start with that. She is a politician. She's playing the political game. But again, my attitude going into next year is, anybody but Hillary.
Yeah, I agree. But, it's systemic. It doesn't matter. And I think a lot on people on the alt-right, they're stuck in this left-right paradigm.
Yes.
The elite, if you will, they use the right and the left and play them against each other.
Certainly saw that in the aftermath of the 2016 election.
Yeah. When they want a war, then they'll rally the right, go fight a war. When they want, social change and transgenders, then they use the left.
Yes.
So, it's funny, I think the Republicans, it's like, where are they? I mean, they have these transgenders and drag queen story. You ever hear a word from Republicans complaining about it? No. they don't mind.
Or it's not being reported by the corporate media that, the conservatives just disapprove. And again, they're all politicians, and they're thinking, how many LGBTQ votes are going to be in play next year? And so they're viewing the issue, as a voting block issue.
Yes. But, the Republicans, they're the same. They just care about money. They always have.
Yes.
They'd be willing to, they could care less about drag queen story. As long as the war profits are coming in, they don't even want to hear about it. I also think, I see the alt-right, they obsess over Beto O'Rourke taking the guns. It's not going to be Beto. It'll be Trump who will put in major gun control if he wins a second term. Remember, it was Trump who said, take the guns first, due process later. He said it.
Yeah.
So while everyone's obsessing on the alt-right over Beto O'Rourke, or Elizabeth Warren, or whoever, it's going to be Trump. And I've always said it'll be a Republican puts in major gun control. I thought it would have been Jeb Bush. I thought he was going to win. But I guess he had too much back.
He kind of faded and self-destructed during that campaign.
Well, having a war criminal as a brother didn't help matters.
No.
So I think his brother... I think if we lived in a moral and righteous country, I think every president since Reagan should be charged as a war criminal. You really look at it, bombing innocent civilians.
Yes.
Carter was the last president who wasn't a war criminal. Every one of them since has bombed innocent people. And I think they should impeach Trump, but not for the reasons they're saying. I think if they impeach Trump, dropping that Moab bomb in Afghanistan, I would go along with it. Or if they impeach Trump for bombing Syria twice, I wouldn't mind. If I were a congressman, I would vote to impeach him. But not on this silly
You need to understand the rules of impeachment. And again, they have to accuse and convict Trump of, treason against this country, or various other high crimes and misdemeanors. Carrying out war on these foreign countries is technically, officially part of his job. And I don't agree with the bombing of innocent people in other countries and everything. But again, it's not an impeachable offense.
Well, if we had a moral and righteous Congress, it would be an impeachable offense.
Well, it's written into the Constitution. Rules for impeachment are written into the Constitution. And we've already had too many of our politicians want to just toss that away. The Bill of Rights especially. Remember George W. Bush's comment, it's just a blankety-blank piece of paper. On which he was wrong, by the way. It's actually parchment.
Another thought I had, whenever for the last 2 years they've been talking about Russian influence on our election.
Yes.
But really, if you substitute the word Israel for Russia, it all makes perfect sense.
Oh, there's no question that Israel interferes with our internal politics on a daily basis, and they get away with it. But, the United States has a long history of interfering in the elections of other countries, especially down in South America. And so if in fact the Russians were interfering in our election, and I don't think they were, they didn't really have a motive to, the U.S. is simply getting, a dose of its own medicine.
Yes. Well, if you're not allowed to talk about Israel's influence on our elections, but you can say Russia.
Yeah.
See, that's the reality.
Russia's gone back to being the bogeyman. Nobody can say anything nice about Russia without being denounced as a Russian asset. You must be a Russian asset.
It's true, yes. But for all this talk about how the media hates Trump, they only oppose him. Notice they only get in a frenzy when he becomes, at least on the surface, against war. Then they get into a feeding frenzy.
Yes.
After when he said he was going to withdraw from Syria. I don't think he will, or his administration will. But when he said that,
he's actually, his original plan was to move those troops from Syria to Iraq, but Iraq has now gone to the United Nations and saying it's time for the United States to get out of Iraq. They don't have the government's permission to be there. Countries around the world are just getting sick and tired of the way the United States just marches their troops across the border and says, we're here to bring you democracy. We're here to bring you the American way of life. We're here to bring you the blessings of the U.S. dollar, and so forth and so on.
Yes. I just noticed that whenever Trump acts like a dove, the media falls into like a feeding frenzy. And I find that interesting.
Arms sales have become, unfortunately, a major part of our economy. Were that collapse, it could trigger a much worse economic downturn here. And that's why all this business with the failed military products, that's getting to be a real problem.
Yeah. Thank you for taking my call, and have a great weekend, Mike.
All right, same to you, and we're going to let you go. Thank you for the call, Jim. Phone lines are open. Okay, so as one of our callers mentioned earlier in the program, Tulsi Gabbard has announced she is not going to seek re-election for Congress in 2020, and it's being spun to support the idea that she's going to run as a third-party candidate and split the Democratic vote. Now, apparently she was on Fox News recently criticizing the Democrat impeachment inquiry for lack of transparency, which is certainly true here. Joe Biden has reversed his previous statement regarding Super PAC cash. Apparently his fundraising is going very slow. So now the Super PACs are welcome as long as they bring their checkbook. We're going to go back to the phones here. Steve Elkins, welcome back to the show. What's on your mind?
I think your last caller, I think it was Ken in New York, he was talking about impeachment for the right reasons of Donald Trump. And I can understand his rationale in thinking like that because I'm not happy with the man also. If you're going to impeach, then impeach for something of substance and not these hoaxes and all these other things that are coming around. But I was just thinking about the War Powers Resolution in 1973, which gives the president the authorization to send troops abroad for 60 days and then 30 days for a reduction and pull back. And that's kind of the gray area, which is, I mean, if you think about it, that's nothing more than a precursor for a war, because if they retaliate and things get nasty over there, wherever you send your troops, then your Congress is pretty much, they're tied to saying yes to giving the authorization for a full-blown war. I wish the resolution never existed, because it's not checked and balanced at all, because it is a precursor. And like I said, if things get out of control, then the Congress has no choice but to say, yes, we authorize you to declare a war now.
Well, see, Congress abandoned that authority back in 2003 with the passage of the presidential right to use military force wherever he sees fit. That's never been rescinded. It's never expired. We've seen every president since then use that authorization for the use of military force to basically invade other countries. And we have 7 official wars underway right now, and who knows how many covert insertions going on around the world. I think Bernie Sanders said it's as many as 70.
Yeah. You know, it makes me wonder on the campaign trail, will he repeat himself from the first time to talking about peace, working with other world leaders, peace, fair trade, commerce, ending all wars, all unnecessary wars? Will he repeat himself the second time around to win this next race? If he does, then we're all going to say, well, you didn't do it the first time. Now you're promising for a second time.
Yeah.
I think that might actually hurt him if he backtracks and tries to reiterate what he talked about the first campaign trail. I think that might be a bad thing for him.
It could very well be, but you need to keep in mind something about the way our presidential system is set up. The good thing about a president in their second term is they know they're not going to run again. And that gives them a lot more latitude to do things that they feel need to be done. So, yeah, I mean, you know, let's be fair to the man. Trump has had to put up with a huge steaming pile of political bovine excrement ever since he took office. And I'm starting to think more and more that Hillary Clinton is behind much of this because she doesn't want to run against him next year.
Yeah, I agree. By the way, I have to laugh at that newest excuse from Hillary about the dark web. I love that.
Yes. Yeah.
That's good.
She just can't accept that she lost because the voters don't like her.
Well, they don't like her, but they're not stupid either. They realize the track record. I mean, you can say a couple things, well, okay, maybe that's not true, but when you get a whole list of things and then you can do your own research and find out for yourself.
Yeah.
The woman on paper looks terrible as a candidate, and she would have made a terrible president. So I think she's dead. I think she may come back, try, but I don't think she has a shot in the dark. I think the people have said, you know, no, you had that one shot.
Yep.
Not going to happen.
She's had 2 shots.
Two shots. That's right. All right, Mike. Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. All right. Well, everybody is making a big deal over Democrat Katie Hill, and it all involves some nude photos of her with what appears to be a Nazi symbol tattooed on her body, and a photo of her puffing on a bong. And my first reaction is, I really don't care. I really don't care. Okay, but apparently the scandal is big enough where George Papadopoulos, say that 3 times fast, is now saying that he's going to launch a campaign to run against her. So, I mean, there's no question she's a wild child, or has been in her past, and none of us lead really exemplary lives. You know, I'm sure all of us have done some things in our youth that we would prefer remain unreported, as it were. Elizabeth Warren has hopped back onto the gun-grabbing wagon and has just called for weapons of war to be taken off our streets, which of course is a reference to the AR-15 and the AK-47s, which in their civilian semi-automatic versions are not considered usable for war. But I'm getting a clear feeling that the government really is concerned that there could be civil unrest in this country and an actual uprising, and they're out there to get the guns. Now, the primary reason that we have that Second Amendment, the Founding Fathers created it, was so that the people had arms equal to those in the hands of the government itself. It wasn't about target shooting, it wasn't about hunting. Those things were considered so essential at the time of the writing of the Bill of Rights, it was like, we don't even need to mention this part. Second Amendment talks about the security of a free state, to keep it free. Because again, back when the Constitution and the Bill of Rights was written, all of the separate states were being treated basically as independent nations, making their own laws, making their own rules, and the central federal government was kind of an umpire, if you will. Following the Civil War, the government grabbed a lot of authority to itself, and it's a very useful exercise to basically look at the amendments to the Constitution that were passed in the wake of the Civil War. So, over in Michigan, they're trying to undo the practice of gerrymandering. So the first time in Michigan history, and only the second time in U.S. history, a citizen-led commission will decide congressional, state, and House districts. Going to get rid of the practice of gerrymandering. I'm sure the Michigan politicians are already out there saying, that's not fair. I have to be able to draw my own lines to get the votes. It's just amazing here. Apparently, Brazil has deployed 5,000 troops. There is a huge protest down there. They had the worst oil spill in the country's history, and the Brazilian people are furious that the government doesn't really seem to want to do anything about it. Or like Fukushima, maybe they can't. Civil unrest is brewing down there as well. We got to take another break here for commercials, and we'll be right back. Aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. Now, down at Georgia Tech, the Young Democratic Socialists of America have been found guilty of discrimination and sanctioned by the school's Office of Student Integrity. And their crime, insert quote marks, was that they barred a pro-Israel individual from attending one of their meetings over concerns that they were there to be disruptive. And so apparently now Israel as a protected class here in the United States of America, they're allowed to come into your meetings and be disruptive, and you're not allowed to say anything about it. Okay, the Episcopal Church has adopted a human rights investment screen related to Israel and Palestine, and is going to sell all of its holdings in Motorola Solutions, Caterpillar and Company, and the Israel Discount Bank. And this is the latest step following the July 2018 General Convention resolution, which committed the Episcopal Church to a similar process taken by the Lutheran Church in America 2 years earlier. Basically, they are barring any investment in companies benefiting from the illegal Israeli occupation of the West Bank, Gaza Strip, and so forth and so on here. Meanwhile, apparently last night, Israeli forces invaded the town of Al-Isiwaya in East Jerusalem and desecrated a mosque and fired tear gas at Palestinian residents of the town, just, I guess, for the heck of it. Meanwhile, the army has attacked farmers and volunteers in the olive orchards near Nablus. And so Israeli soldiers, and again, this happened yesterday, attacked Palestinian farmers and volunteers picking the olive trees in orchards owned by the residents. Excuse me. Got a little frog in my throat there. So the orchards are owned by the residents in the Al-Luban Ash Shadiria village. And the WAFA Palestinian News Agency said the soldiers invaded the orchards near the illegal Aliyah colony, which was installed on private land. And apparently the soldiers fired tear gas bombs and concussion grenades in addition to assaulting several Palestinians with their batons. Now, exporting olives is one of the few ways Palestine is able to make money. And Israel doesn't like them. Doesn't like that at all. And there have been these constant attacks on the olive orchards. And the reason it's especially pernicious is it takes 10 years after you plant an olive tree for it to bear saleable, usable fruit. Apparently, Israel has sort of revived a program to force Palestinian schools in Jerusalem to use textbooks approved by the government of Israel, which tell a slightly different story about how Palestine went away, Israel came on in. All right, so let's talk about the economic news here right now. Got central banks. They're hinting at a big reset, talking about trying to find a solution. Well, so far the solution has been just print up a lot of money and give it to the banks. It's quantitative easing all over again. We're going to have a major, and this is something Trump needs to be thinking about right now. We're going to have a major economic upheaval before the 2020 election, which the Democrats are going to blame on Trump. They're going to say, the economy was fine when Obama left office. I mean, you know, it was all, no, it wasn't. This economic disaster has been decades in the making. But Trump's going to have to figure out a way that he can counter the inevitable accusations. Apparently, another one of SoftBank's startups is in trouble, and this one involves a company called Fair. This was a car subscription startup that partners with Uber and is backed by SoftBank. They have to cut 40% of its workforce with immediate effect. Several co-founders and the chief financial officer are also being let go. Over in Great Britain, peer-to-peer lender Funding Secure has gone into bankruptcy. British like to call administration. And this is the second British P2P lender to collapse in 6 months. About 3,500 investors got impacted by that one. I think they changed the company name to We Don't Work Anymore. WeWork plans to cut another 4,000 staff. Yesterday it was only 2,000. They're obviously in serious, serious trouble over there. So we got to take another break here for commercials. When we come on back, more about China and the economy. Stay tuned. Aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. Now, in recent years, China has invested a great deal of money in what's called the One Road, One Belt project, which is this high-speed transit corridor to link Asia with Europe, make it faster and cheaper for products manufactured in the Asian countries, primarily China, to reach the European markets. And this, of course, is seen as a threat by the United States, which can't possibly compete, unless Alexandria occasionally has a cortex, succeeds in building her bridge to Hawaii. So there was an article that came out in the Nikkei Asian Review trying to equate the One Road, One Belt project with China's Great Wall. Now, the original Great Wall was this wall that was built to keep the northern barbarians out of China in ancient times. It didn't work all that well, by the way. So now they're out there trying to say, well, this is a new Great Wall, and we should be concerned that China is doing this. This Great Wall is going to be economic. And they're complaining about the fact that Beijing is waging this influence campaign, complete with English-speaking news channels beamed across the Balkans, to reach out to the ex-communist countries on the periphery of the EU. And yeah, it's going to drastically change the economies of China and Europe. And the U.S. does not like that. I don't know why the Japanese are that upset by it, unless they've been told they're not going to be allowed to have access to any of this stuff. Okay, over in the Department of Education, the top Betsy DeVos appointee has now quit and has called for canceling $925 billion in student debt, which I think would be a marvelous idea. And mostly that's based on the fact that these students, can move out of their parents' homes. They can avail themselves of other economic opportunities and keep more of their own money. And in recognition of the fact that modern education has become, like so many other things in our society, it's another scam. You get lured in with promises that, don't worry, after you graduate with this degree in art history analysis or something, you'll get a high-paying job. You'll pay these student loans off, very quickly. So the kids are forced to take the students' loans because other forms of financing college have basically gone away. Not as many scholarships as they used to be, no support. It's set up to basically plunge them on the debt hook as young in life as possible and to keep them there. And it is a big problem, and it's ruining these kids' lives because they can't find the jobs with which to make the payments on their student loans, and a lot of them are defaulting. There could be a collapse of the entire system here. Rob Kirby is out there saying that there is, in fact, a global crisis unfolding. U.S. dollar rejection is underway and accelerating. And as one of our callers earlier in the program mentioned, Russia's largest oil company, Rosneft, has completed the switch away from the U.S. dollar to minimize exposure to U.S. sanctions. Rosneft has already fully switched to euros as the base currency for all its export contracts. And, of course, it was Iraq's desire to get away from the dollar and switch to the euro that led to that first war, Desert Storm. Out in California, PG&E stock has crashed to an all-time low over fears that once again they'll be blamed for the latest California inferno. And apparently the stock dropped something like 26% just today. And the fires are very intense. They're sweeping across homes north of Los Angeles. 50,000 people have been evacuated. And they're now saying that, yes, one of these fires started near a PG&E high-tension line that appears to have been damaged. Okay, we got another caller on the line. Steve in Florida, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Mike. You look well rested, which makes me happy. I'll tell you that moving is no party. I've done it enough times, and it's like, I don't think there's anything worse.
Yeah,
and you had a long way to go.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes, I do. I still don't have my office back together, and this turned out to be far worse a struggle than I ever imagined it would be.
Well, good thing you didn't know how bad it was going to be. You never would have done it.
Yeah,
right?
Well, I probably wouldn't have. Or okay, hang on a second. What happened? Did you fall? Okay, all right, okay. Gravity is not your friend. All right. So,
do you need to go?
It was a tough move. No, she's fine. Her walking stick fell over.
Okay. Oh, good. And it was good news about Claire, her eye and stuff. But,
yes.
Yeah, you look rested. I was kind of worried about you for a second there. Anyway, moving. No, I don't recommend it. Okay, now. I'm wondering, Mike, and it's probably not the right section, but okay. I was listening to yesterday's broadcast, and for one thing, okay, that Mark from North Carolina says he has a website. He didn't say what it was. So if he's listening and hasn't called in yet today, then I would like to listen to him.
Okay.
And I agree with him. There was one thing he said that I agree with, but that's what makes us not non-leftists, because we can disagree and still deal with it, right?
We can be civil about it.
Yeah. And try to see the other one's point of view. That doesn't work the other way. So, but okay, you know what, Mike? What I'm wanting to ask you is that Trump says that, okay, he's helped the vets, he's opened up competition on drug prices for Americans.
Yeah.
These different claims. Now, in actuality, Mike, do you know that the vets are getting treated better like today? Or is that like next year? Has he actually opened up, trade with Canada or whoever he was? Yeah, Canada was one, but there was other countries that he was going to, open up, the market so that, break up the monopoly, on Big Pharma.
Well, yeah. Yeah, that's one of the. He made a lot of promises during the 2016 campaign, and I agree with that other caller who called on in and said that if Trump just replays that script next year, the American people are just going to abandon him.
Okay, so he hasn't done anything good for the vets.
Well, we don't really know, and part of the problem is that it could very easily. That he's done these good things, but it's just not being reported by the corporate media.
Sure.
We have to always be aware. There is bias in the corporate media against Donald Trump.
Yeah, and I mean, if you go against Big Pharma and you try to break up that monopoly, think of how many enemies, you're going to make, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So, and I think what you said, and you said this yesterday, sorry, but like you think in his second term, which I think is going to be a landslide, that's just me, but that he'll have a lot more nerve to, I think he was a little bit naive of who he was standing up to.
Yep.
And I think he thought he had more power than what he did. But he's pretty strategic. And I think his next term, I think he's going to get a little bit more pushy. I'm hoping.
Well, that's been the historical trend. Presidents in their second term, they feel they don't have any favors to repay. They can tell their big campaign donors, thank you for the money, but I got to do a job here. And historically, we've seen presidents in their second term actually make much better progress on what they promised the voters. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know, you've said it many times, he's been a disappointment.
Yes.
He has made, signed into law as far as the vets and as far as the, drug things. That's just two examples, minor examples. Well, they're not minor. But, it's signed into law, but in actuality, what's going on? That's why I was sort of asking. But I think he's going to get a little bit more pushy this next term.
Yes.
And I think that you're going to be less disappointed. I'm disappointed.
Yes.
He hasn't really started any more stuff. So, foreign wars is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but he's pushing on Russia pretty hard right now.
Yeah, but wasn't he pushing on Turkey pretty hard? Or no, Iran, sorry.
Yes. Yeah, he definitely pushed on Iran.
Yeah, and he called their bluff, and that was that. So I don't know. But anyway, glad to see you're getting settled in, and I hope you have your office in that room. I love it. So
no, this is the dining area. Back there is the living room, and my office is in one of the extra bedrooms. And when I get it set up, it's going to be a little bit smaller, obviously. But I really do need to get the move-in finished. We've got stuff still in boxes. We got stuff to hang on the walls. We don't know where we're going to put it all. Well, we have to. We have to pace ourselves. Okay?
Yes. Yeah, I hope you have a window behind you during the show. That makes it nice, in my opinion.
No, there will not be a window behind me. There'll be a bookshelf. But there's going to be lots of interesting things on the bookshelf.
Okay.
Okay.
Good talking to you, Mike. Take care, buddy.
All right, thanks an awful lot. Or maybe I'll just spin the webcam around because there's a window in front of the desk there. It's not like you all don't know what I look like to begin with. Okay, we have another caller on the line, another Steve, this one in West Virginia. And aloha, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hi, Mike. We're talking about Trump's possible second term. I'll tell you, I'm really nervous about it because what I see in the second term is a really good possibility for Trump to do what Israel wants and start a big war with Iran. And that's the biggest thing that I'm worried about with Trump's second term.
Again, I think as friendly as Trump has been to Israel, I think in his second term, he's probably, again, going to be less inclined to do as he's told. So, time will solve that mystery for us.
Okay, that's all I had for you. Good show.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. Okay, interesting little report came on out. And you've probably noticed on TV all these commercials, for bacon being added to everything. Bacon burger, bacon tacos, bacon whatever. It turns out America's stockpile of bacon is the highest it's ever been since 1971. And they're wondering, why are people not buying and consuming this product? There are warehouses full of it. Some of it may have to do with the fact that bacon is not considered the healthiest of foods. But again, I'm looking at the climate disruption of our farmers. I think it's a good thing that we can hang on to those soybeans. I think it's a good thing that we have a surplus of bacon. Because we have 300 million American citizens to get through to the next harvest season. And apparently 25 million illegal immigrants here. Okay, Tesla short sellers apparently lost $1.5 billion in a single day. Tesla stock is definitely headed down. Now, the other day we were talking about this lawsuit by a family whose male patriarch, whatever, crashed his Tesla car. The door handles did not automatically open because all the electronics had been destroyed. And Mike in our control room said, why didn't they just smash the windows to get this guy out? Well, it turns out the side windows on the Teslas are laminated glass. So those little glass breaking tools will not work. The glass will fracture, it'll crack, but it'll stay in its frame. So that explains why that was apparently not an option here. Today is the anniversary of the signing of the USA Patriot Act, which basically eviscerated your civil liberties. And most of the provisions of the Patriot Act were set to sunset 4 years after the bill was passed. However, it has been extended, first by President George W. Bush and then by President Barack Obama. And the latter is particularly ironic, given that, at least in part, a rejection of the surveillance culture that permeated the Bush administration was responsible for the election of Obama in 2008. So, as I mentioned earlier in the show, the ratings for corporate media, yeah, I agree with you, Mike. That's a terrible thing if one of those things ever ends up in the water. Anyway, the ratings for CBS Evening News are imploding. People are abandoning corporate media. And I think, Project Veritas deserves a great deal of credit for having exposed so much of the bad behavior. Getting into the world of liberal craziness, if you will, political correctness, there's finally been a court decision regarding this lawsuit. This transgender woman who still had male genitals sued this beauty parlor for refusing to wax her balls. And it's not one of those cases where go find somebody who will do what you want rather than take them to court and make a big media stink about it, but that's what happened. And the judge said, no, probably can understand how painful having your gonads waxed might be. Got to take another break for commercials. We'll be right back after these few words. And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. Now, earlier in the week, we talked about this case down in Texas where the jury, for whatever reason, decided that custody of this boy, 7, should go to the non-biological mother, who was already out there saying that she was going to transition the boy to a girl. with hormone therapy and the rest of it. And it provoked a huge backlash. And the judge basically imposed a gag order on everybody. But he has now overruled the jury, which judges do have the authority to do sometimes, and saying these divorced parents will have joint conservatorship over their child. That means they both have equal right to make joint medical decisions regarding their child, which includes whether James should undergo hormone replacement therapy to transition to a girl. They'll have to also agree on haircuts for the child, as well as dental and psychiatric care. And apparently James is one of a set of twins, which complicated things a little bit here. But basically, the child's mother has been forcing this kid to wear dresses and was constantly telling him that monsters eat little boys, and that's why you want to be a girl. So, anyway, tomorrow night is trick-or-treat night, as I mentioned earlier in the program here. And once again, the politically correct are out there. And this time they were claiming that the jack-o'-lanterns that are painted black, and they're painted black to make the light coming out of them higher in contrast. But it's still blackface and it's still racism. And so the retailer is pulling the pumpkins off the shelves over claims of racism. It's optics. It's insane. Now, I felt a certain burst of joy at the next story here. Apparently, the leader of Scientology, David Miscavige, has been served in a Hollywood child trafficking lawsuit. And this woman has sued the church and Miscavige personally. Apparently, the charges or the accusations include false imprisonment, kidnapping, stalking, libel, slander, constructive invasion of privacy, intentional infliction of emotional distress, failure to pay minimum wage, failure to provide days of rest and meal periods, fraudulent inducement of employment, negligent representation, and the list goes on and on and on. And there is a series that's been on TV for a while. I'm blanking on the name of the actress, former actress who hosts it. But it just talks about how out of control Scientology and Miscavige are. And I did interact with some of those people when I worked in Hollywood. They're very scary. We've got to take a break for station identification. We'll be right back. Aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 3. The phone lines are open. 800-313-9443. We have a caller waiting on the line. Al in Canada, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. You were talking about bacon.
Yes.
Mike, you can put bacon on a piece of turd and it would probably taste good. Even that.
Well,
that
I love bacon. I love bacon. So does Claire. And we're certainly now in a part of the country where it's certainly a lot less expensive than it was out in Hawaii. But apparently the bacon producers are concerned that the warehouses are filling up, the product isn't moving, and I'm sure they can put it on sale. But like I said, we've already seen this flood of commercials from fast food restaurants where they're putting bacon on everything. So they're trying to move that product out the door.
Well, in the United States, the same thing happens with cheese.
Yes.
Identical. They push cheese on everything. I found when I used to go down there a lot. So when winter's kind of approaching now up in Canada, and so the corn is now gone. And up here in Canada, where I live, there was a specific corn called Welsh Brothers. It was an heirloom corn. Yes. And it was non-GMO and organically grown. And it was so tender, Mike, and so good that you wouldn't know the next day that you ate corn. And now it's gone. It's only here for a few weeks. Do you have any products like that? Maybe not in Hawaii, but do you think there are products like that where you are, because you're really rural now, like non-GMO, really good food?
Well, Claire was noticing that a lot of the packages that we got from the local supermarket, I mean, we have not had really a chance to get out and see much of the area. I mean, we're going to a birthday party tomorrow afternoon. But a lot of the products are, in fact, labeled non-GMO, organically grown.
Wow. That's fabulous. In your opinion, do you think it's more expensive?
Certainly not coming from Hawaii. That's one of the things
it wouldn't be, right?
That's been a shock to us, is just how inexpensive everything is here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's even in Canada. I mean, food has been one of those things that inflation hasn't really touched upon too much because of how can I word this? Because of migrant workers. Right, yeah. The labor costs have been suppressed, so food is still, kind of cheap in relations to other things. So, that's basically all I really wanted to talk about. Us were kind of wondering how the food situation was where you live, because you are rural. In Canada, yes, the government is pushing GMO on the farmers. That's a fact.
Yes.
I've talked to them.
Yeah.
And why would they do that other than they get a cut?
Yeah, that's basically what it comes down to. The companies want to basically establish a monopoly on food production, and so the farmers have to buy new seed from them every single season. They can't save the seed from the previous harvest, and it's just a way of squeezing more money out of the American people and the farmers. And yeah, they're very generous campaign donors to politicians, both in Canada and here in the United States of America. So it's really all about the money. And of course, there are serious concerns about GMO food, about incorrect protein expression, about the fact that you can alter a genome in a life form and unintentionally trigger changes in other places that you didn't intend.
Unintended consequences. I mean, that's classic.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Food's very important. It's one of those things that ought not be noodled with. I remember in the 80s, I used to like to watch David Brinkley with
yes.
ADM, Supermarket to the World, and they would talk about this genetically modified corn. Originally, it was for ethanol.
Yes.
So, hey, these suckers will buy anything. Let's push it on the people, and let's see if we can get this thing really rolling. So,
well, I
don't know.
I think around here, somebody told me that the corn that's in the supermarkets is non-GMO and locally grown, but the GMO corn that is being grown is being used as livestock feed.
That's scary too. Like that in itself. I mean, cows shouldn't be eating corn at all. They should be eating grass or hay. Because,
yes.
We've all seen the videos and read the information about their gut health and all that. And, it's funny, we'll spend like $8 on a half a liter of yogurt just because it says probiotic, which means just active bacterial culture.
Yeah.
But we don't give a crap what, the chicken's eating that we're going to eat that night. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. But, what are you going to do? So, just before I go, I was curious. So Claire's not coming on Fridays anymore, Mike?
As soon as I get my office and the existing setup back up, then yes, she may come on the show on Fridays, maybe not too soon. But, yes, she is going to come back on the show.
Good. That's great. I like hearing her voice. She has a very nice voice. You have a good show,
I like hearing her voice, too. All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go.
Right.
The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Now, up in New Jersey, apparently the governor, using an executive order, has banned all insurance sales to gun owners, making it impossible for concealed carry holders to receive liability coverage. And Governor Phil Murphy's office stated that, you know, allowing them to buy insurance products would encourage the improper use of firearms. That's the rationale behind it. But apparently, you know, insurance companies are already shutting down. They're pulling their services out of New Jersey. Down in Florida, the Senate there has endorsed Governor Ron DeSantis, and they also have permanently removed Scott Israel as Broward sheriff. He's sort of been on leave ever since the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting, which appears to have been another false flag. And he was heavily criticized because he didn't send sheriffs in there to try and find the shooters. But Florida Senate has basically said he's gone. He's never going to get his job back. Okay, iPhone, Apple, has been forced to remove 17 iPhone apps for delivering malware. And apparently the hackers have come up with a new little trick here because Apple has very sophisticated security software that scans the apps before they're allowed to go up on the App Store. And apparently the hackers are now bypassing the security measures by hiding code behind a CNC server. So it's not physically in the app to be detected by the anti-malware. And pretty much any app that is being given away for free, you have to wonder what it's going to do here. Now, the Royal Bank of Scotland and NatWest have now removed their banking apps for the Samsung S10 users. Just shut them off because somebody discovered the security flaw, which allows anyone to unlock the phone using a screen protector. This was discovered entirely by accident. To be very honest, I think it's foolish to have your banking information on your tablet or your phone. You're just asking to get hacked. And got to take your personal security very, very seriously. Okay, so as our caller from Canada said, winter is on the way. It is actually snowing down in Texas right now. Expecting thunder showers here tomorrow. So we'll see what's going on. But apparently it was snowing heavily enough in Texas where one home had their roof caved in. Meanwhile, over at the Pentagon, they are sounding the warning that climate change could cause the U.S. military to collapse within 20 years. It's a bit of a reach there. All the things they're blaming on human-caused global warming. You broke our military. You will pay to let us buy a new one. And here's a good one. Retired principal scientific officer for the British government has exposed what he politely describes as discrepancies in NASA's Global Historical Climate Network, which made recent temperatures seem warmer. So it looks like NASA faked the climate data, gives scientific credence to these climate policies that basically going to raise your taxes. So NASA fudged the data. Of course, they've been caught doing that before as well. So has NOAA. Being lied to. Okay, remember Greta Thunberg? Well, apparently scientists have decided to name a species of tiny beetle after her. They've known about this bug for 54 years. It's never had a name before, but now it's going to be Greta something or other. And the comedians are going to have a field day with this one because the bug does not have eyes. It doesn't have wings. It's got a very, very tiny brain. If I were Greta, I'd be feeling insulted right about now here. Okay, and getting on back to here. apparently somebody is noticing that this Katie Hill scandal is being scrubbed in the American media. It's all over the British tabloids. They got those photos out there. Yeah, the media is still in the business of lying. Apparently, according to this article out of Investment Watch blog, Trump is saying the warmongering will not end. The U.S. may have to get into wars. Certainly, we know how close we came in Iran. Iran shot down one of our reconnaissance drones. Trump was apparently just minutes away from launching a strike into Iran over the drone. All right, the city of Johannesburg has been hit with a ransomware attack. And again, nobody seems really interested in trying to track any of these people down here. And apparently 7.5 million records of Adobe Creative Cloud user data has now been exposed in another hack. Okay, we've got a caller on the line here, Tom in Florida. Aloha, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, good day to you, Michael. I haven't been able to call you for a few days, but yes, Michael, I want to talk about this fat hog, Michael Moore. This guy was talking yesterday about that the white people are pretty soon going to be the minority, and in 25 years, the white man's going to have to be kissing the butt of the brown man, and all this nonsense that just spews out of that Zionist pig who said that Fidel Castro in Cuba had the best health care in the world, and you already had 38 kids that died over there, and you got that fat schmuck. Why doesn't he take his fat schmuck butt over to Israel and stay over there with Schumer and all these other schmucks, pencil neck Schiff, and all these Zionists that are just trying to literally destroy the white males of this country? Because, you know, this whole thing, you know why they're going after Trump, Michael, is this whole deal with Trump is about immigration. There's nothing else. Nothing else matters, like I told you. They want him. They're so pissed off the media and all these leftist communist Bolsheviks is because Trump's trying to stop this invasion, incursion of our country with all these millions of invaders that are coming to our country. Don't want to keep the common language of the country and its common culture as it is. All these Democrats should be arrested for treason against this country. And I can tell you this. Michael. With the gun, John Adams said it, with a gun you're a citizen, not a gun you're a subject. And that's what these Democrats want. They want you to be a subject. That's what these demon rats want. They want you to be like you're in Russia or Soviet or China. That's exactly what they want. Okay? And, you know, I got to say something about the people in New Jersey. I didn't realize how real liberal that state really is. And back in the 60s, I remember even the late 60s, Jersey was a very conservative place like California. But you talk about the libs taking over that state. That's unbelievable, man. What's happening in Jersey? You know, it's just pitiful. It's really pitiful what these Zionist dark angels have gotten away with in this country with the media. Like I told your show a couple of weeks ago, and you told me it cost $50-60 billion by one of those major networks. You know, well, that's what it's going to take. You're going to have to get all these rich billionaires and multimillionaires to buy one of these major networks and say, hey, no, we're going to start having a conservative viewpoint. Because this leftist, communist, Bolshevik media is absolutely insane. The hatred they have for Trump, that Adam pencil neck Schiff, that shifty little creature, that bug-eyed freak, that guy. I mean, Michael, these guys should all be in Israel defending their country. Why are they over here? Got that Michael Moore.
I agree, but hang on a second. I want to back up. First of all, it's not just the Israeli influence. You know, you've got very obviously a plan to try and push the general population of planet Earth into a socialist system. And what that means is there will be even more of the wealth for the world's billionaires. So I'm not expecting any billionaire to step up and say, we need a new conservative news network, because conservatives have a bad habit of wanting to hang on to their own money.
Well, Michael, you're right. But, you know, speaking of George Soros, and you talk about all these rich Bloombergs and all that, and you got that hog out there, Weinstein and Epstein and all these filthy dark angels, I call them, I don't know, the Kabbalah, whatever. But you know what, Michael? You had a call in a couple of weeks ago. That guy was basically telling the real truth. The real money's with the Rothschilds. They're not worth billions, Michael. These people are trillionaires. They're the ones that are running the New World Order and everything. And it's not the Soroses or the Trumps or any of these. It's the freaking Rothschilds got all this money controlling the whole freaking world.
It's all the families it's all these families that own these private central banks, and it's not just the Rothschilds. I think the Warburg family, the Rockefellers, and it's a legalized counterfeiting operation, and they've used it to make themselves very, very rich. And you're right, they're trillionaires. And they don't want the common people to know that, which is why they never show up on these lists of the world's richest people. I mean, you just say, let Bill Gates claim to be the world's richest guy here. We don't really care as long as we still have our piles of cash to roll around on and have orgasms.
Exactly. Yeah. And you know, Michael, speaking of that at one time the great state of California, which is now Mexiphonia, or Leftifornia, whatever you want to call it. Can you realize right now these AOCs and these leftist communists are talking this new Green Deal, and they're talking about, oh, we can't have airplanes, and you're talking about the water. Look at all the water that's in Southern California that people can't even get anymore because all these illegals are over there.
Yes.
And you know what? They had on One American News,
the infrastructure has been neglected. You know, the water mains underneath the city of Los Angeles leak literally millions of usable water back down into the earth.
Yeah, it's incredible. I hear you. It's incredible. But, you know, you got this, you got all these Democrats talking about the new Green Deal. In the meantime, these lily whites in California allowed their whole state to be invaded. Their state is literally gone. The guy was saying that California's population, I think it was Pete that said that, there's only 40% white Anglos in the state of California anymore. Pretty soon it's going to be down to 20% like it is in South Florida. I mean, it's crazy. And you know what? It's one thing if they come and you're like the Italians or the Poles or the Danes or the Swedes or the, the French, whoever came here, they learn to speak a common language. No, they're not doing that anymore. That's not happening throughout the lower.
They're not assimilating.
So they're absolutely not, positively. And Trump needs to be made totally aware of that. And all those, I don't even know what you call the Republican Party anymore, those freakies, that they don't see what's going on.
Tom, I'm going to put you on hold. I'm going to hold you over this next commercial break. All right, we'll be right back. Aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're still talking with Tom in Florida. And Tom, I want to back up here a little bit. First of all, I don't appreciate the highly personal comments you make about people like Michael Moore. And I want to be brutally honest. I don't agree with his liberalism, but he has, in fact, produced some really good movies, like Roger and Me, his first, and more recently the Who Do We Invade Next, which I would recommend people actually look at that one. So he sort of blows hot and cold, where he'll do a documentary that is bang on spot, and then he'll do another one that's just completely silly. So I wanted to clarify that about Michael Moore.
Okay, Michael. Well, okay, if you feel that way, why doesn't he do a documentary on Weinstein and Epstein? I think he'd be great doing a documentary on them guys. Why don't he do a deep state documentary on Harvey Weinstein and Jeffrey Epstein? That would be a wonderful documentary for him to do. And he can do some other documentaries. That'd be fantastic. But getting back to, you want to talk a little politics. Let's look what happened with Matt Gaetz, the congressman for the great state of Florida. Our congressman here in Florida, Matt Gaetz. Did you see what happened with him yesterday, Michael?
No, I didn't. Please enlighten me.
Well, okay, now they're calling him a racist. Every one of these leftist communist news commentators, Lemon and all these other Mad Cow and all that, they're calling all the white people, all the Republicans who march out of the chamber down to go invade Schiff. They're calling them all, they're Ku Klux Klansmen. They're all a bunch of white Aryan nations and all this. You got all these filthy leftists on the media talking about congressmen of the United States, congressmen and women. These are men and women of our Congress who are Republican, and they're Klansmen and all that. If they were Klansmen, Michael, guess what? And now they're talking about Donald Trump should never use the word lynching. Well, listen, lynching was around back in the Wild Wild West, way before they used it in the Civil War, okay, and all that crap about slavery. Lynching was going on when they tamed the West. The old sheriffs out there would hang you high, okay?
Yes.
So all this nonsense about Donald Trump's using the word lynching. And Matt Gaetz is a racist because he's marching all his constituents down there to break in Adam Schiff's office. And he's a Klansman and all this. No, this is filthy nonsense, okay? And it's got to stop.
Yes.
Because if they keep this up, you will have a big problem, okay? Because white Americans are going to wake up to the fact that they're not going to be pushed around anymore. We are the majority still, and we're not going to take much more of this nonsense. And you got these NBA basketball. Hey, Michael, let me ask you a question. You're a very super intelligent man. I'm going to ask you a super question. I want everybody in your audience to understand
and humble.
this. What would happen? What would happen in the end? I know you are. You're a great man. You're one of my favorites of all time. Listen, Michael, seriously now. I mean that seriously. But, Michael, if you raise the basket to 11 foot in the NBA, how many people would turn on an NBA basketball game? I guarantee you people would rather watch midgets play basketball and put the hoop up at 4 foot. I would rather watch a midget basketball league where a little midget can jump up and dunk a basketball at 4 foot than a guy that's 7 foot tall and he can't dunk a ball at 11 foot. So let's put that basket up 11 foot, NBA boys, and we'll see how much money you deserve to get paid. Okay, with your silly nonsense dunking a basketball like you're Superman. But put that basket up to 11 foot, and I guarantee you not 1% of the players in the NBA can dunk. Okay?
Yes.
And most of them will miss all their three-pointers. So, you know, I tell you what, Mike, let's go one better. Let's go 6 inches higher. Put the basket at 10'6" and see how many guys in the NBA will be able to dunk the ball. Maybe you might have a handful, but you won't have these guys doing these reverse slam dunks and all that. So, you know what, this crap with the NBA and this LeBron James and all that, like he's a king. King of what?
Yeah.
Because he can dunk a basketball? This is nonsense. And he's paying these guys multiple millions of dollars for what? A game that doesn't matter to nobody's life but his life because he's making $1 million laughing at everybody, and he's saying that China is a great country. Why don't you move to China, LeBron, with all your money? And all these other NBAers are making all this money. I don't care if they're black or white, who they are. They're making millions and multiple millions of dollars to play a game that doesn't matter to nobody's life in the real scheme of things. And you know,
well, I'd be careful saying that around this part of Indiana.
Well, Michael, I guarantee you put the basketball 11 foot. Nobody in Indiana will be watching basketball too much. They won't be watching that game too much if they put that hoop up to 11 foot. I can tell you that. I'd rather watch 3-footers play. Matter of fact, they ought to start a 3-foot league. You can't be more than 3 foot 10 inches, and you could join, get another league going. And I think more people would be entertained by that than they would the NBA. That's my opinion on that. But you know, getting back to Matt Gaetz, this guy, Michael. One more thing, Matt Gaetz is walking down to find out what's going on with this impeachment. And every leftist news network's calling this guy all these filthy names. Yeah. Can you imagine if that was reversed? Michael, listen, seriously, if that was reversed, what would happen? I mean, they would have...
I mean, Tulsi Gabbard, when she was on Fox News, absolutely nailed it. There's no transparency to this process. And we demand transparency. And you know, for Adam Schiff to basically take the attitude that we, the American people, have no right to know what's going on in that impeachment room. And now we're finding out that they're relying on hearsay, that the witnesses aren't really saying what we're being told that they say. The whole thing is a fraud from beginning to end. And frankly, if I'd been a member of Congress, I probably would have joined that march down to the office and kicked the door open and said, look, there's a new game in town.
You know, Michael, one more thing. I think if Tulsi Gabbard was running as an independent, I think Dustin would vote for her. I'd vote for her.
Tom?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Going to put you on hold. Going to bring you back after this commercial break. Aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. We're still on the phone with Tom in Florida, who sounds like he's had way too much coffee today, and just going on and on about how crazy our system has become. And it is a systemic problem. And what makes it worse is the fact that, we can remove a corrupt congressperson with great difficulty, and there's 20 more candidates lined up behind them, ready to go, waiting for their turn at the trough.
Well, Michael, I will say this. I did have some espresso today. You know what that is?
Yes, I know what it is. It's coffee's.
Well, I drink a little too much. But listen, speaking of that, by the way, did you see the news about Jesse Smollett? The federal judge is going to make him go to trial. That was breaking over the news yesterday. They're talking about it today again.
Oh,
Smollett,
good.
The federal judge says he will be going to trial, and they're going to find out what actually happened with this nonsense with Smollett. And also, They had on the news a couple of days ago about Tom Brady. Did you see the thing about Tom Brady, the quarterback for the Patriots?
No, I missed that one.
Well, now they're saying this is on a couple of days on Breitbart, I believe it was, in a couple other networks, that Tom Brady stands for white supremacy. He's what white supremacy is about. I'm like, where do these people come up with this nonsense, Michael? I mean, it's unbelievable. It's appalling what these journalists, or I don't know what they call them. They're not even journalists. They're imbeciles. Come up with this nonsense, but they love to start this racial hatred. You know, the things they start up, like Chicago over the last weekend, they had a black gentleman on there 3 days ago talking about another 31 shootings in Chicago over the last weekend. Okay, nobody says anything about that. But when it's a guy goes to Walmart, oh my God, it's national headline news for months. And now you had 31 more shot. I think it was 16 murdered. I think you guys said 4. It was 31 over the last weekend. And it was a guy that lives there, and he was talking. I believe it was on. I don't know if it was on Hannity or Ingram's show, and he goes, "Nobody's saying anything about it but me, and this network, Fox News." So I'm like,
"Yes."
No way. N talks about it. No other network talks about that. None. ABC, CBS, NBC, none of them. CNN, they all shut up about that. What's going on in Chicago? So,
well, there are two reasons for that. The first is Rahm Emanuel has a tremendous amount of influence. Second of all, the gun grabbers want to keep attention focused on the long guns. And that's not what's being used in Chicago or Baltimore or anywhere else where people are being shot and killed. You know, and if they honestly reported on that phenomenon, you know, the American people would be saying, well, obviously we need the AR-15s and AK-47s to protect our homes from intruders. And if you're really worried about, you know, the crime in the streets, go after the small guns, the Saturday night specials.
Well, yes, I agree. I don't know. In Chicago, Michael, I kind of have to disagree. I think a lot of those shootings are people standing on corners and people flying by with, you know, machine guns or whatever they, you know, ARs, whatever they're using. I don't know if they're all handguns. I think just, maybe a mixture. But yeah, I could go along. Probably a lot of them are, you know, handguns, but I don't think all of them. I think it's maybe a 50-50 mix on that one. Also, they had something on. I don't know what's going on with Brexit. I did hear some about Brexit. They might finally get get away with Brexit, but if they don't, and the Euros win this deal, they're going to keep flooding England and Great Britain, whatever, with all the third worlders they can.
Yeah.
I mean, London is totally gone. I saw it on the news on the way in there. Talking about, I'm like, oh my goodness, London is totally. It's unbelievable what's going on in Europe. I mean, here's one thing, but over there it's just amazing.
Well, it's not just Europe; it's all over the world. I mean, riots in Brazil, riots in Hong Kong, and I think our government is concerned that they have pushed the American people to the point where, you know, we're ready to say we're done talking. You're not listening to us. You know, and something has to be done to prevent the coming economic disaster. Anyway, Tom, we're going to let you go here,
I agree.
And we're going to take another phone call from Pat in Texas. Aloha, Pat. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, I just wanted to say, are you familiar with the Office of Congressional Ethics, OCE?
Yeah. Yes, I am.
Well, I just want to remind people that anybody can bring a complaint against a representative who is violating their oath of office. And Nancy Pelosi is doing it. I wish I'd had some espresso. Anyway, this is what they're looking for. They're looking for transparency. They're looking for accountability. And they're looking for, what's the third one, Michael? Well, anyway, you need to look at, people need to look that up, and they have the right to make a complaint against Nancy Pelosi, who stood up there and laughed and said, well, we don't know how long this will take. This could take a long time. Well, see, that's the point, to tie him up so nothing really gets done. That's getting done now, and it is getting done, Michael. I don't think anybody has a list, but they don't have time for your show for the list because each person knows what he's done, and in their area, like VA. So it's not easy. People don't like to be made accountable. They don't like it. And there's pushback, pushback, pushback. And if we don't all get out there and fight, and I admire the information that you have, if we would just tell what little bit of information we have, like O'Rourke, people don't know all this carrying on that the guys storming the basement are doing. Well, O'Rourke did the same thing. He and Al Green reported in the Dallas Morning News, I forgot the exact date, but in 2016, they took over the House floor and had a sit-in on the floor. On the floor. I mean,
Yes.
you know, the thing you stand on, right? And
Yes.
and and O'Rourke, he made them get the Republicans were, you know, in charge at that time, so they just cut the lights out. So you couldn't even see it on C-SPAN. So O'Rourke, he got cell phone and told them all to turn on their cell phone lights. And when they did, the C-SPAN could show it. You could see them sitting on the floor. And he wanted to brag about this law-breaking attitude. You know, and that's what we got. We just got a bunch of lawyers. Yeah. We got a bunch of lawmakers who are lawbreakers. And we do have that power. Make them be accountable under that Office of Congressional Ethics. And they will.
Here's the fly in the ointment, and I know they're already talking about Katie Hill is going to have an investigation, an ethics investigation. That Office of Congressional Ethics has the option of ignoring complaints that are sent in. There's not an automatic inquiry.
I know they do. But can we hold them accountable? If you look at who's on it, it's former reps and people like that. And so you got to hold everybody accountable. You just have to do it. And when we do it, and people like RBN will let you say something. You know, these here Mockingbird shows they got out here that, you know, oh, I just love him. And then I can't stand his voice. I don't, you know, on and on and on. It's just crazy crap. So we have very few talk shows anymore where you can tell something that you need to tell to the people. And they got the cell phone. I mean, they got internet. They can look it up themselves.
Yes.
You know? And I think people get jobs now. Maybe they don't have time to do it like they did under Obama. And that was a wake-up thing. They had time to do this stuff. You know, thank you, Obama. He sold more guns than anybody, too, right? Didn't he?
Yes. So, yeah, he did.
You know.
But any time the gun grabbers talk about grabbing the guns, gun sales go up. You know, and the liberals are apparently too dumb to realize that all this gun grabbing talk is what's stimulating gun ownership. Now, again, here in Indiana, this is serious gun country. And, you know, there's a proper hunting season. Now, hunting is forbidden in this area where we're living now, which is actually a good thing because they've discovered deer in the wild with a strain of tuberculosis that can jump to humans. So, you know, if you are hunting and eating your kill, which you should, you need to be very, very careful about that. But no, this is serious gun country. And again, it was kind of a shock. We walked into the Walmart and, you know, the huge case of guns, and you know, you go down to like the local hardware store and they're selling, you know, gun sights. People are very serious about their weapons here. And again, it's all for sporting purposes. Another
thing too, all these people like whatever her name is, Cortex or whatever her name is. You know, she's a witch. She's a witch. She's right there from Manhattan where there's a whole conglomeration of witches. And she is not serious about this greed crap. What she's doing is casting spells. When she talks about not flying, planes are crashing every week. Please. I mean, I'm not saying that some of them weren't, you know, don't be investigated like the 747 or what that thing was, the Trump, you know. But, you know, when she says that we shouldn't have ships have problems. And I bet you she flies, but if she doesn't, you know, she's just a witch. That's all she is. And people who know anti-witchcraft need to pray against that woman.
She's an actress. No,
she's a witch.
She's a former bartender, and she literally got cast to run for office for that district. I guess they didn't have anybody better. And she's very good at attracting attention to herself. But, you know, she's not qualified to be in the job.
Hard, Michael. If us Christians worked as hard as the witches, we would really be winning. And I know that you're not exactly a Christian, but you're not an anti-Christian, are you? Anyway,
no.
You know what? No, you're an agnostic, okay? You're
I'm an atheist.
Or whatever. Oh, my God. Well, anyway, Michael, this is a Christian country. It was started as a Christian country, and Trump is right to keep on talking about it. Reagan was right to talk about it. And Russia, and they keep on, coming against God, and he throws stones at them. I mean, how many people? We haven't had all those meteorites yet. You know what, though? If we keep on pushing God, he's just going to reel us in. He will, because he loves us. It says it. Whom he loves, he chastises. So look out. You better start loving God.
Our country has gone through a lot of chastisement lately. I mean, you've got the wildfires in California. You've got the northeaster storm. They're predicting another major storm for the New England area for Halloween. They're even saying that by the time the real Halloween gets here, all 50 states will have areas that are below freezing. So, plus the big storm that just
not going to happen. He's not going to have another name of a God come out of our lips, or he's not going to put up with it. So Halloween is nothing but a satanic holiday. That's all it is anymore. It's ridiculous. We at a time we're innocent about crap like that. God winked, but he's not anymore. But he's not going to do any more than we do. If we don't stand up for our country, he is not going to stand up for it either. Because he gave us.
Well, you have a unique point of view about Halloween.
To get the right to talk. You can't talk like this in Russia or any of these communist countries. You
couldn't talk like this in the old Soviet Union, but right now in this country, I mean, free speech is clearly under attack.
Of course it is, but see, Christians worked for this country. They formed this country for the right to freedom of religion, and that did not even mean Satanism or witchcraft or whatever her name is, because they would have never agreed to that, because Maryland was a state named after Mary, Pennsylvania Reformed Dutch, whatever they call them. Original people. It's all religion. Yes. And if they had to sign a constitution that allowed witchcraft, equal whatever, they would have signed it. They would not have signed it. And I didn't come up with this.
Pat.
Builders did.
When this country was being set up, one of the most important things was freedom of religion. And in order to guarantee that, government was set up so there was no official religion. Religions were denied civil authority.
What I'm getting at is the word religion to them meant denomination of Christianity. Wall builders. I got this from them. They would have never. Yes,
the founding fathers, actually wrote they wanted to build a wall between religion and the government to keep the government civil.
I mean, I know that he wrote that in a private paper. Jefferson wrote that in a private paper, that wall of separation. It is nowhere near the Constitution. And they want to take the Constitution down really hard. I mean, I've been fighting for that Constitution since 91. And I know the history of how bad they want to get rid of it. Right now, all the amendments have been violated, Levine, thank you, except trial by jury. And
and that one's being taken away. That one's being taken away. Anyway, Pat, the phone lines are loading up. We're getting close to the end of the show. We agree to disagree on certain issues, and thank you very much. We're going to switch over to Sam in Texas. Aloha, Sam. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
The Schiff family, they date back to the Rothschilds when the Rothschilds first started in Frankfurt. It was the the four main families was the Oppenheimers, the Schiffs, the Warburgs, and the Rothschilds.
Yes.
And the Red Shield is the coat of arms for the Vatican. The Vatican controls the Rothschilds and many other people. There's people way richer than the Rothschilds. And the fact is, the church, the message in the church, well, there is no message. I go to church every Sunday. They pay me. And but they don't ever address what's really going on. It's the money changers. Who are the money changers? You know, they're the people that control MK Ultra and all this football nonsense. You know, this is all set up. You know, why even watch the sports? You know, go watch your kid play football.
Yes.
But who wants to watch a bunch of grown men? You know, the church is totally absent. They never address the money changers. And that seems like that's what the strongest message that Jesus was talking about, or Yeshua, or whatever he is. But yeah,
well, you know, he did give those money changers in the temple a good flogging. Anyway, listen, Sam, we're going to have to let you go. We got to take our last commercial break. Back with the last segment of our program after these few words. Aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. Last segment of our program today on this Pauhana Friday. And apparently sources are confirming to Fox News that the long-awaited Inspector General report is going to shed light on why the Durham investigation is now officially a criminal probe. Okay, we're going to take another phone call here. Dustin apparently called back in to respond to something that was said. So, Dustin, take it away.
Yeah, Mike, like, this has nothing to do with religion in this country not anymore. I mean, George Bush, wasn't he like an evangelical, Dick Cheney and all these, Mike Pompeo? But yet, they ain't got no problem. Trump just rearmed the money to the White Helmets, for Christ's sake, right?
Yes.
And he just gave money to Saudi Arabia. They want to cut Christians and Catholics and everybody else's head off. Muslims, Christian. So this whole thing with, we're a Christian. This stuff is long gone, man. You know, like these people are fake. You know, it makes me sad. You know, we got abortion in this country. We got Wall Street got bailed out, and the bankers and the regular little folk got set the bill. And we all know by the stories, Jesus kicked the money junkies out of the temple. So those are two, and plus we arm Wahhabi jihadis. So those three things right there tell you all you need to know about this country. You know, and Tom, I want to respond to Tom. He said, well, LeBron James went to China and says China's a great. But if LeBron says America's a great country, then how do you explain what we did in Iraq and Libya and Syria and Yemen and Ukraine and a lot of other countries, you know, Vietnam and Korea? I mean, just because you live here, your government, Mike, our government has done evil things and has stained this country and the flag's reputation. Yes. And that's all I got to leave tonight with the show, Mike.
Yeah, I think, 50 years from now, the Stars and Stripes will be looked on with the same revulsion that the swastika is today because of all that's going on here with this slow-motion world war. And the government, corporate media are actively working to keep us all confused at each other's throats. And they're just coming up with all this ridiculous stuff about transgenderism and which bathroom to use as a distraction so that we're not watching too closely what's going on. Because, again, the quantitative easing, which has now been renamed as reserve management, has started back up again. They can't fix the economic system because it was doomed to fail all the way back when the Federal Reserve was established. And they can't kick that can down the road any further. They don't want you thinking about all these wars and whether they're justified. They want to go back to that wonderful world where you would just believe as you were told to believe. And here in the independent media, we took that away from them, and they are not at all happy with us. Okay, there's the music. Time for me to get out of here. Stay tuned for John Stadtmiller's program. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. And please spread the word of RBN to all your friends. and have a really good weekend. Talk to you on Monday.